Good evening, everyone. Welcome to episode 7 of Restitching the Tapestry. We're going to wait a minute just so we can let some people file in. I apologize, by the way. I'm looking at the tags at the top of my video, and I still have Shane Dawson and Onision in the tags. I'm going to go fix that really quickly. Oops. That's what happens, my friends, when you copy and paste things. And I am really infamous for copying and pasting things all the time. So sometimes it can be a very helpful thing. Other times it can work against me. So body image. Let's see. All right. Hopefully it fixes that on your guys' end. All right, I'm going to refresh that. There's never a dull moment when it comes to technology, that's for sure. Okay, so I think it should be fixed. I just refreshed it. It doesn't have Onision and Shane Dawson anymore. All right, so welcome to Restitching the Tapestry, episode number 7. This is a very special episode for us because both Ari and I have had various struggles in the past with body image, and we wanted to dedicate an episode to talk about our own experiences, how we've coped with it, and our like ongoing, vigilance with regard to coping with it. So before we get started, I do want to make sure that I do our mission statement for the show. So many witness different atrocities, large and small, that often fray the social fabric around us. And much of the time, many often feel powerless and know not really how to address those things. And as this fray has gotten worse, the rise of social media has kind of given us this very visceral ability to share in trauma in real time as it goes viral. And we, in a way, share in this collective grief on a mass scale. So the big question is, what can we do to mend the communities that have seen tragedy, or communities that have had privileged groups initiate those types of tragedies? So together, let's work through Restitching the Tapestry in conversation, creativity, and action. And obviously for tonight, the group of people that we are specifically focusing on are those who do contend with body image insecurities, or deeper body image difficulties. So Ari, would you like to, well, first of all, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I am delightful, thank you. It's good to have you here again. If you have not yet, go subscribe to Ari's channel, which is named Strange Nothings. Also, while I'm, doing this plug, subscribe to my channel, click like on our video, and even if you're watching it after we're done with the stream, if you leave a comment, we'll still look at the comments and respond to them. So beyond that, we are monitoring the live chat, so if you would like to say anything to us, feel free. So far, I am seeing Igni, David, Taylor, RB, Sophia.
Hi, Sophia. Nice to see you.
Hello, wonderful friends. It's good to see you. RP's like, Donny, congrats on almost getting 3,000 subscribers. I'm literally 3 people away from that. So if you've not done that yet, you might be the 3,000th. I might think of something for the 3,000th subscriber. I don't know, maybe a personal pep talk video. Who knows? All right, so let's get to talking about tonight's topic. So Ari, would you like to start us off with it?
Sure. So, body dysmorphic disorder is defined as, according to the Mayo Clinic, a mental health disorder in which you can't stop thinking about one or more perceived defects or flaws in your appearance, a flaw that appears minor or cannot be seen by others. So, so basically, like, you think like other people can't see these flaws, or they seem to be minor, or other people can't see these flaws, but to you, they seem to be like big or overblown, or they seem to be out of proportion. So, it's just like you may see your body as like out of proportion, or you may see your body as being like misshapen, or just something that's like not the way, not it is in objective reality. So I've done this at 160 pounds. I do this now at 250 pounds. It's just, it doesn't matter what weight I'm at. My body is not the weight it should be. And I mean, how, when did this start for you?
For me, well, like I discovered via therapy recently that my body image insecurities and dysmorphia go back to my grandmother, because she always used to shame me and call me ugly. But um, they kind of have escalated as I've grown older. When I came out, especially when I started dating gay men, it became very difficult, because what in the gay community, there are very, very specific body image standards that define what's considered attractive versus what's considered unattractive. And I mean, and it kind of like exasperated how I view my body. Like, one of my biggest issues is I always, like, when I look in the mirror, I always feel like my body is spilling over, if that makes sense. Like if I look at clothes that I'm wearing, I feel like my skin is spilling over the clothes. Like I'm like some sort of like gelatinous liquid. And that's actually the first time I've ever described it that way. But that's like, that describes it perfectly how I feel. Like, actually, that's actually why I wore this tonight. Because I like, sometimes in some videos I will try to like wear something that reveals skin a little bit, because it's something that I've always been very uncomfortable with. And I've been told in the past, like through therapy, to try to like challenge myself to like gradually like show more skin in the confines of what makes me feel comfortable. When I first put this on tonight, I felt very uncomfortable, because I felt like I when I looked in the mirror, visualized myself spilling over this tank top. Okay.
Oh, that's really funny. Because for me, part of my body dysmorphic disorder is not liking my breasts. So I'm wearing a bra that like I'm wearing a sports bra that like compresses my breasts.
Hmm.
Um, I see them as too big, and I see my body is too big and weirdly shaped, no matter what size I am. Um, my body isn't. I wouldn't consider my body being small. I am 250 pounds, but I perceive myself as 400 or 500 pounds sometimes. I see myself as being sometimes so big that I need to wear size 18 or size 20 pants, even though they fall off me,
Hmm.
and that um, they are not the right size for me. And people have noted this for me. Um, I I have always seen myself as needing to lose more weight. Um, I've always seen myself as needing to be, I was being too flabby, and seeing, I often will do this. I'll do this as because I see the skin under my neck as being too loose or too and I'll push my knees together because I don't like the way it looks or the way it feels. So that's part of my body dysmorphic disorder, is that I don't like the way it is. So um, if you see me doing this, it's actually part of my disorder, because I don't like the way it appears when I'm looking at myself.
Hmm.
Um, it's it's actually like me looking at myself and going, "Oh, I hate the way I look," and like me self-hating on the inside, and like
Hmm.
saying, "I really hate this." Going like this is one thing, but me going like this is a totally different. This is like, I hate myself.
Hmm.
um, so this is It's like,
it's
oh, sorry.
interesting that no, I was going to say it's interesting that you mentioned like the little things that we do that it's almost so natural to us that it's almost like breathing because we're so
Mhm.
used to it, right? For me, what I do, and like I'm not doing this right now because only the like upper half of my torso is in the camera. But if I were sitting further back, one thing I commonly do, I always sit with my arms folded or
Mhm.
my legs crossed because I'm trying to like hide the lower part of my torso when I'm sitting like outside, like say like I'm on a patio or something and I'm like visiting with people. I will sit like this to kind of hide the fact that I even have a stomach because like for me like my big insecurity area is my stomach and my love handles because
Mhm.
whenever I see myself shirtless, like that's like the prime point where I feel like I'm spilling. Like I am like I kind of view myself as a loaf of bread bulging out of a bread pan, as horrible of an analogy as that is. But I mean, and thinking about it right now, it's funny because I'm not having like any significant like issues at the moment. But like for example, today when I woke up, because like when I sleep in my underwear, just FYI, everybody. I know you all needed to know that. But I got up and I went to the bathroom and I looked in the mirror and I saw my body like that and I got really insecure. And my really unfortunate habit that I do after I have like one of those like dysmorphic moments is my instinct is to weigh myself. So I will weigh myself and like if it's like a weight increase, then I get extremely self-deprecating. If it is a weight decrease, I look at myself and I'm like, it's not enough. It's not enough. It's not
It's
enough.
not enough. It's never enough.
Yeah, and like I mean, even if it's like an increase, I still say it's not enough. Interestingly, Taylor just commented, um, dermatillomania is the need to pick at your skin. I am constantly moving my hands over my face or shoulders, back and chest to find something to pick. Interesting. See, I don't like for me that doesn't affect me, but I do know other people that that affects too. It's like
Um,
that insecurity of like there's something like visible or that needs to be removed or something to that effect.
I just hate looking at myself when I go to take a shower. Like, that's the worst time to look at myself because it's like everything is laid bare. And like, you look at yourself in the mirror and it's like, oh God. Because it's
Mhm.
like every sagging boob, every set, like every crease in the stomach, every flabby butt, everything that you don't want to see is right there. Every, um, you know, uh, um, stretch mark is right there. And so it's just out there to be seen. And
Mhm.
I hate it. I hate looking in the mirror when I go to take a shower because it's like I can't it's horrible. It's horrifying to me. I I'm like with sometimes I'm like I can't look at myself sometimes I'm like if I look at myself it's going to be a bad time, but then other times I'll like stare at myself for like a couple seconds and I'm like I have to do this because I have to like confront the fact that this is who I am and this is my body and I'm going to live in my body and be okay with my body because like I need to this is who I am and like I need to be okay with that because like if I hate myself like I mean I need to be okay with myself like I need to love myself and like So sometimes it's a good thing and sometimes it's a bad thing, but usually like I try to be nice to myself and like, but like it's really hard sometimes when
Mhm.
I'm like in a really like not a nice mood and I'm like not feeling good about myself. But like lately, since I've been like exercising and like eating healthy, I've been like a lot nicer to myself. So
Same here. Same here. I another like not only does it affect me when I see myself before taking a shower, but also if I am being intimate with my partner, like I have to be very like if I'm in like in a really low mental state, I have to be very careful to like avoid mirrors or avoid looking at myself because if something is I don't like to use the word triggered, but if something is sparked in my mind where I kind of get caught on that feedback loop of you're fat, you're disgusting, you're spilling, you're gelatinous, Donny, then it completely destroys the mood and I don't have the energy or the drive or anything to be intimate and it really and then of course that really feeds into further insecurities because another thing is like for me is like if I'm unable to perform that like adds to the self-loathing, the self-deprecation. My body isn't doing what I want it to do, what I need it to do. Therefore, I am less than, I am inferior, I am weak. You know, like it's kind of an explosion if that makes sense. And the explosion turns into like a bunch of different things. There's like shrapnel that gets lodged into my mind.
yeah.
And it's like sometimes I can maneuver myself through it and kind of focus on other things, but other times if it gets so ingrained, it like almost I have to just sleep to factory reset my mind so I don't focus on it. It's interesting. And like I'm even like you mentioned stretch marks. That's one thing that's been getting me lately because
Yeah.
over the past month, like I have stretch marks on my love handles and
Oh my God, right?
I have stretch marks like on my arms because when I was doing my master's program, I was super muscular and then I stopped and like my body like because my arms were bigger back then and my body kind of deflated a little bit, I developed stretch marks because of it. And now
Hmm.
I'm looking at them and being like ew, what's wrong with me?
Everybody has stretch marks. Don't stress about it. I
Yeah.
I know that's like easy to say, but like I know how hard it is. You just want to like rip your hair out, but like everybody has stretch
Well,
marks.
just acknowledging that they're natural, that's what I have to tell myself. Like that kind of helps me get through it.
Yeah.
Um, because it's a normal part of growth, it's a normal part of our body shifts, it's a normal part of aging, so on and so forth. But that's a whole nother topic too for me because now that because I'm going to be 32 this year and I've always in the back of my mind had this pride of I have like this, Peter Pan syndrome, as they call it, where I like people think that I look like I'm 5 to 10 years younger than I actually am. And I've been having moments where I'm noticing crow's feet or I found gray in my facial hair like a few weeks ago. And like that in conjunction with my already existing body image issues, it's been like, Donny, not only are you gelatinous, but you're getting old too. Like, rah, never a dull moment.
Yeah. Well, and my problem is not only do I have body image issues, but is it like do I have like body image issues or do I have like gender dysphoria because of my non-binary, because of my boobs, like cuz basically like my ideal body shape is like basically like a twig and like that's kind of like the ideal like non-binary shape is like this androgynous like stick figure shape. And like it's sort of like I don't necessarily want to be male or female. It's sort of like I don't necessarily want to like have a gender necessarily. It's sort of like I it's sort of like a little bit of like gender dysphoria that I'm experiencing as well as like body dysphoria that I'm experiencing. So like that's kind of like a little bit of both that I'm experiencing as body dysphoria and gender dysphoria. So like it's sort of like an unrealistic expectation that I'm having with my body. So like it's kind of an unwinnable situation that I just have to come to terms with. And like it's like I have this body and it's like unrealistic because I was assigned female at birth.
Yeah. You know, like, and see, for me, like, I mean, I can't possibly understand gender dysmorphia because I don't experience it myself. But I think it comes back, like, I think there could be multiple variables feeding into that. But I do believe, personally, for me, from the perspective of having this, like, thought in my mind, this image of what it means to be a gay man and to look like an attractive gay man, so much of that is constructed by media and constructed by, like, the representation that we see the most often, the representation that's glorified the most, and like, I think it can be very destructive for those of us who feel as though we don't fit into what goes into that, set of characteristics, and like that's been something that I've been struggling with for a long time, and it probably will be something that I struggle with for a long time in the future, but I feel like I become more and more aware of it as time moves on. I don't know if that's something that you can relate with as well, but yeah.
Well, yeah, and like I don't know, like um when I was when I was heterosexual, I didn't I never had any problems getting a boyfriend, and like I spent like 10 years of my life passing from boyfriend to boyfriend, and like it was just sort of like uh I was just it just was like I didn't understand it because it was sort of like I I didn't understand like my attractiveness as a young person. So like it just was like I don't understand what they see in me, and I didn't understand like what they were looking at, if it was just my personality or if it was just like what they were looking at, if they saw me as attractive or not. So I was just like it confused and upset me at times like what they saw in me. And so like I just was like so I would just like hate on myself, and like it just like it was just like this warped like I don't understand, it doesn't make sense to me. And so then I would like diet and exercise harder, and like then I would just be like because I was like trying to like work myself harder to like keep them and like keep them satisfied, and like I needed to like push myself harder because I thought that I was going to lose them. And
Yeah,
like
it's like we have to work harder to shape our bodies in the way that they see it, but we want to be able to see it the way they do, if that makes sense.
right.
It, like, oh my gosh, I really, really relate with that. Because like one of my big issues is like there's always like this comparison going on, there's always like this, like, how do I stack up? How do I add up to the other people around me physically? If somebody finds me attractive, like, what is it? Like, I literally don't see it, because when I look at my body in conjunction with what is considered attractive, I'm like, well, I don't got that. I can't check that check box. I don't got that. I can't check that, and it's always a mystery to me, and my big problem is that I assume that people say that I'm attractive because that's the nice thing to do. People say it to be
Or they're
nice.
like humoring you, or
Mhm.
like, oh yeah, they're it's just like, yeah, they're
Yeah.
like, oh yeah, whatever. But like, have you ever gone out in public and like you're walking around, like say the grocery store or something, and you see people like walking around, and you're like, I look like that person, or I look like that person, or I look like that, like someone who like is like bigger than you, or like, like, or have you ever done that? Like someone who
Mhm.
like, have you ever done that? Like, I look like that person, or I don't look like that person, or I look like that person, but I don't look like that person.
Yeah, I do that, and I really do that, especially regarding height, because I have a lot of insecurities with regard to height. Because, like, one of my big areas of being bullied when I was a kid was the fact that I was always very short and small, and I'm always, I'm always, like, hyper conscious of my posture. Like, I will sometimes, like, if I'm out in public, I will make sure that my posture is so straight that when I get home, like, my back physically, like, I literally have to lay down because my back hurts so bad. And it's because I wanna make it seem like I'm seeming taller,
Oh,
because
that's horrible.
that's what men are supposed to be, tall. There's so many variables. That's what makes it very difficult to wrangle with. Um, but it's super interesting. Igni says, "Sorry guys if I seem quiet." No, you're okay. You're okay. You don't like, if you just would rather listen or watch, you don't have to comment if you don't want to, or if you can't think of anything to say. But oh, my computer just froze. My bad. So, um, so we've already talked about, like, how it have we talked we talked a little bit about how it affected us when we were younger. Are there any other things that you wanted to add, that, like, where it affected you younger versus now, like maybe how it has contrasted over time?
I had an eating disorder. I've had disordered eating when I was younger. That kind of lasted through into my 20s.
Mhm.
Like when I was a teenager, I wouldn't eat lunch at school. Um, like I would kind of hide out in the library, and I wouldn't eat lunch at school. And that was kind of like my way of like trying to like manage my weight and try to like stay smaller, even though it never really helped. Like I never really got any smaller. I stayed a size 12. And then when I was in my 20s, um, I went to Grand Canyon, and I developed an even worse eating disorder where I was starving myself. And I got down to about 160 pounds, about a size 10. And I kind of just sort of stayed at that size 10. Uh, and I didn't get any
Mm.
smaller than that. Like my body kind of just gets to that 160 mark, and I just can't get below that. Like it just won't go below 160.
Mhm. It's interesting that you mention starvation, because I used to do that in college, my undergrad as well. Like, I would, like, when I after I came out and I realized that my body didn't look the same or didn't fit what was attractive for gay men, I went into this phase where I was working out probably like 2 to 3 hours a day, like, overworking myself. Like, I would be, like, in physical pain, but I would be like, "I gotta keep doing it, I gotta keep doing it, I gotta keep doing it." And I would have stints where I would skip meals. Like it got to a point where there were times where I would maybe just eat like a couple snacks a day, like a couple small snacks, and that would be it. The worst that it got for me during my undergrad was there was probably a couple month span where I was taking laxatives. Because I had convinced myself that I wasn't having proper bowel movements, and that was why I was looking bloaty or looking bulgy, you know? So I would do that, and of course, like, nothing would come of it, but, like, I would feel like, "Okay, well, then I feel better. I must look better because I feel better," you know? And,
I
like,
don't think
that
that's how it works.
oh, no. Oh, no, no, no. Like, after, because that's around the time that I got therapy in college, and my counselor was like, "Donny, that's like, what are you doing?"
Maybe
Well,
not take laxatives.
right, like, and I quickly learned and stopped, and I've never done that again since then.
Okay.
Um, but thinking about it back then, I didn't think of that as any type of disordered eating or behavior until I got older and realized, like, that's not something that people do.
That's not the average person doing,
No,
no.
no, and that was like, it was very alarming for me, and I went through this long stint of feeling unbelievably guilty about it, like, why would I allow myself to get to that point?
I mean,
Um,
it happens.
it does, like, it came down to addressing the problem, and
Mm.
once I started doing that, I stopped participating or initiating those very destructive behaviors that I didn't realize were destructive.
I mean, you can't help it. It's just like it's just happens. Like, I mean, I've had destructive behaviors for as long as I can remember, and it's just like I don't beat myself up about it. I just try not to do it. Like
Mhm,
even now, up until this year, even I still have destructive behaviors of binging and purging, where I'll eat a bunch of calories, and then the next day I won't eat very much at all, and like
mhm,
I do that all the time where I'll one day I'll just like eat like 3,000 calories and then the next day I'll eat like 500 calories. I do that all the time. Like I'll just
mhm.
like up and down, up and down, up and down.
It's like, I do something slight like, it's not exactly the same, but I will, like, starve myself or, like, skip
Mhm.
meals when I know I shouldn't, thankfully, I am glad that I have a really good support network because my partner is very, very conscious of my behaviors, and he is very helpful when it comes to holding me accountable, and I feel bad that he has to be placed in that position, but, I'm working on that, thankfully, like, I'm working on that in my therapy right now. Um, but yeah, it's all like David made a comment about shame, like, it's all about shaming ourselves, and I think shaming is it's definitely something that's learned, it's something that, like, we're conditioned to do by things that people have said or done to us. That's what I've discovered from my therapy experiences. Because I know I've done a couple videos recently about how a lot of my mental health difficulties are connected to things that my very abusive grandma would do or say, and I discovered that my own view of how I view my body even is connected to that too.
Well, my whole family has disordered eating problems. It's just a family thing. It goes back generations that we just
Wow.
all that we have problems that it runs in the family. Um, that we worry about our weight and that we
Mhm.
worry about that we have body image issues and that, because I come from a family full of women, And so we're constantly thinking about how we look and how everything fits and how it all looks. And, you know,
Mhm.
we tried to foster in my family, like in my immediate family, like something that was different, but it was like, it's really hard when you're a woman growing up. I mean, now that I'm non-binary, I like try to like unlearn these things, but like growing up as a woman, it was like you kind of have these things that you have inherently in you that like society gives to you that are like issues.
Well, and all of those parameters and expectations are defined by men largely.
Of how you should look and act
Mhm.
and like be, and like it's just, and like there are just certain things that I have, memories that I have growing up with like of weight and like image, like body image, and like that like are very disturbing in my family that like I don't necessarily want to talk about, that are like of like just family members being like, yeah, it I try not to talk about my family too much, but like um it's just that they things have happened that are like,
Do they, like, agitate the already pre-existing?
it's just that it's just part of my upbringing that like
Mhm,
it's just part of it that they have done things over the years that have just been part of my development. And it's not anything that like they did consciously. It's just that it's part of the overarching societal thing that they were taught and that
mhm.
they were giving to me through what they had learned themselves.
It's all, like, I always like, my latest mantra has been, like, it's all conditioning. Like, gradually over time, like, generations are conditioned to think in certain ways and believe certain things and teach certain things, and that's passed down constantly, you know? And, like, now for me, like, like, since I'm not since I wasn't assigned female at birth and I'm not a woman, like, there are a lot of different insecurities that I can't connect with because they weren't defining aspects of my upbringing as a child, you know? I mean, there are certain ones for men that are there, but I don't think it's as drilled into people's heads as it is for women, you know? Because again, for women, it's all about
Being
appealing
pretty.
to yeah, being pretty, appealing to the male gaze, like what's socially acceptable for men,
Put on makeup, wear pretty shoes, be tiny as you possibly can, be as nimble as you can,
poised
um,
and,
be
yeah.
skinny, be pretty. If you're not skinny, you're not pretty.
I'm trying to remember a word that you used in your prior, because I know you've done a couple of videos about this. Slovenly. Like, it's always, like, this fear of appearing slovenly, you know? And because being slovenly is the exact opposite of being poised, right? So, like, the goal is, like, stereotypically defined by men is to be poised and not slovenly, which is a very toxic it's a very toxic thing, and it's very difficult unlearning that, I'm sure. I can
It's
only
true,
imagine.
'cause, you know, because slovenly is piggish, and men don't want pigs, they want princesses.
Mhm. Now, if we look at it, like, from the context, because if you, like, look at gay men, that adds, like, an extra filter, that changes it a bit. Like, for gay men, it's you have to look athletic, you have to be athletic, you have to like present yourself in some masculine way, because in the gay community, dominantly it's masculinity that is the most attractive, and femininity is often vilified. I think that has a very deep rooted tie to misogyny. That's something that even I've had to unlearn over the years as well. But if you don't fit within that, or fit within those, then like your attractiveness starts declining, right? You don't fit within those boxes, so therefore you're out of the loop, if that makes sense. But yeah. Oh, that, like, it's very layered. It's very layered.
Oh, here's a good one. What are you doing to help with your body image issues, struggles to help better the situation? Are you talking with a therapist about it?
Since I just got done yammering, would you like to answer that first?
So what I'm doing to help with my body image issues is, first of all, I'm working out, I'm eating healthy, and I do talk to a therapist about it. I think that talking to a therapist has helped me. Um, I I also try to use the power of positive thinking. Like I said, I look in the mirror and I try to be as positive about myself. I try to look at myself and try to be as positive about myself. I try to look at myself and be as honest with myself as I can, because um, I I get in these negative headspaces where I don't look at myself and I get these like distorted, like, okay, let me see if I can. I draw these pictures of myself, and they're
Uh-oh.
just like,
1 second, Ari. I'm getting comments from people about us having a lot of audio feedback.
I'm not sure why I have my headphones on.
Yeah, I don't hear any audio feedback myself. Is it still happening? I wonder if, like, maybe my microphone was, like, hitting my shirt or something. That could be it, too. Let us know when it clears up, everyone. So, anyway, sorry for interrupting. You were saying, though? Can you hear me, Ari?
Oh, it's still happening.
Uh-oh. Well, we'll wait a second to see if it clears up. I'm gonna mute myself. So I muted and unmuted myself. I wonder if that worked. If you guys could respond in the comments. Taylor said, F you to the scale, yes. Is there still any background noise, my friends? Okay, it's still happening. I'm not sure why it's doing that. I just unmuted and the feedback is on and off. It could just be YouTube tonight. I'm not 100% sure. Is it like preventing you from hearing us clearly?
Can you hear us okay?
Hmm. I'm not seeing, like, it's interesting because on my end, I just checked my settings and it's not showing any feedback. I wonder if it's just like maybe the streaming service isn't syncing up well with YouTube tonight. David said it's just a little scratchy. Well, for the sake of time, thank you for bearing with us, even though the audio is not perfect. We're gonna keep pressing on forward. Is that okay with you, Ari, if we keep pressing on forward?
Yeah, I think we should.
In the
Sorry
grand
about the sound.
in the grand scheme of things, I'm pretty content that it's taken us 7 episodes for us to have any audio issues. Because in my mind, I'm just used to technological issues from the get-go. So at least we've had this stint of tech-free problems, right? Or problem-free tech. Getting my words mixed up. All right, so Ari, so you were telling us about something related to your body image insecurities and how you perceive yourself. So,
Oh, yeah. So, what I'm doing to help myself now. So, what I do is, I am using the power of positive thinking now. That I am trying to, I'm trying to look at myself more positively because I have these negative ideas about myself. I tend to not look in the mirror. I tend to like draw myself as being this like grotesque blob, and like I draw myself as like these weird deformities, and like I just get these like weird ideas about how I look. And so I you know I don't I'm not 400 pounds, I'm not 600 pounds. I have to look at myself sometimes to see that like I am only a certain size, and that I am losing weight, and that like I am just a regular shaped person. I am still overweight, but like I am losing weight, and that I am exercising, and that I am eating healthy, and that I am doing better, and that uh it's not as bad as I think it is, and that it's still you know is within a range that I can work with, and that it needs to it could I could be doing better, like I could be losing the weight, and I'll get there, but it's not as bad as it could be.
it sounds like there is a semblance of hope, and that hope is what keeps you moving forward with it. And I also answering the question as well, like I do talk to a therapist about it. I work out, I eat healthily, and being able to talk with someone objective about it who doesn't really know me personally, like the therapist, has been very helpful because people close to you, their immediate instinct is to say, well, you look great. Like, that's not true. You look wonderful. Like, why do you think this about yourself? Like, why are you being self loathing? Whereas the therapist usually will just like listen and maybe ask some supplemental questions to walk you through understanding where that self-deprecation comes from. Like once you know the origin of it, then it becomes easier contending with it in some way. And that's been monumental for me lately because I've always been aware of myself, my body image issues, but I never acknowledged how deeply they went. And until I started realizing the depth of the issue, like, no progress was really made, you know? And lately what I've been prompted to journal a little bit about it, to kind of journal about, like, how I view myself or how I would ideally like to envision myself. And I've been practicing, like, more positive affirmations, like, I've been trying to look in the mirror and see, like, my progress from working out. that, like, if I focus on progress, it helps. It's not always easy to do, but it does help me sometimes. Igni says that the feedback is gone. Yes. It was probably just the interwebs being problematic. And this last question that we have in here, I think we've answered most of the questions, but this last question of, do you think you'll ever be free of your body image struggles? What is a goal that you would like to see? What do you think about that one, Ari?
So I don't think that I'll ever be free of my body image struggles. I think that like it's just going to be something that I'm going to have to live with for the rest of my life. I think that it's just going to be one of those things that's just going to be realistically like something that I'm always going to contend with, and then it's just going to be something that realistically I'm always going to deal with. And like I hate to say it, like I'm always going to like always deal with this, and that's okay. Like it's just going to be the monster in my closet, and it's just going to be something in the problem. But like a reasonable goal for me to have is um that I I am able to look in the mirror and say, I love myself, and that look at myself and not hate my body and not immediately hate everything about my body and like pick apart my body piece by piece and immediately like a butcher want to cut off pieces of my body, because that's what I do now is like I just want pieces of my body just gone, because that's what I do now is like I want this gone, I want this gone, I want this gone, I want this gone. And
Mhm.
like if I could just like look at my body and just not be like I want these gone off my body, and like I just want my body rearranged and like these parts to disappear. That's a reasonable goal to have. And like if I could look at my body and not immediately just want to like cut off parts of my body, that's a good reasonable goal to have.
Yeah. Yeah. Like, for me, it's like I wanna like, well, first of all, I think that I'm also going to struggle with my body image insecurities for the rest of my life, and this kind of goes back to our mental health episode. Like, when you have mental health, um, struggles, like, it's just a question of like, you can't delete them necessarily, depending on what it is, but you can have tools to help you stay vigilant in counteracting them in some way, you know? And for me, that's the same case with looking at my body. Like, for me, my goal is I want to be able to look in the mirror and see someone who I think is beautiful without having to consider all of the constructed body types and ideas of what makes a man attractive. Like, I wanna be able to look at myself free of those things. It's very difficult to unlearn those things because they're so unbelievably deep-rooted, but progress is being made. One thing that my therapist has been doing with me, it's called EFT tapping, I believe. And it's essentially where you tap various pressure points and you speak out like different like insecurities that you have as a means to kind of give them, I don't know, like to give them solidity, if that makes sense. Because until we start acknowledging those insecurities and giving word to them, making them more tangible, we can't throw those insecurities in the trash, if that makes sense. So that's been helping me in sometimes. It's not helping me all the time, but it's been a good help. I will share a link in the description section to a video on that. So if you guys want to look at something about that,
That sounds
I'm not
cool.
I'm not a therapist. I can't guarantee that it'll help everybody, but it has helped me. So, one like another goal that I have, and this is one thing that really bothers me. Like whenever I go swimming with people, my instinct is to like I will always swim with a tank top on and swim trunks. People expect men to go shirtless all the time. And I'm kind of in this in between where like I want to teach people to accept that not all men want to be shirtless all the time, but at the same time I want to be able to go to a festive occasion and not have to worry about people making me feel guilty for still being clothed. So I know that's kind of odd, but that's one thing that still gets me. So that's I'm probably going to end up talking to my therapist about that here in a little bit, like in the next few days. But
I want to be able to wear shorts and not feel weird about my knees. Like the knobby part of your knees, where your
mm,
knees meet.
mhm. Interesting.
I want to feel less weird about that part in, like where the little bump is, like where your knees are. I want to
Mhm.
feel less weird about my knees. That's a reasonable goal.
Well, and it's like
There's fat down there, and I hate that part of my knees. No, like next to your kneecaps, like where your legs are, like on
oh,
like where the
okay.
thighs meet, like where your thighs meet.
Interesting. Well, and
I
it just goes to show you that like there are very specific points, like specific areas of our body that really get us. So for you, it's knees. For me, like
it's
I
my
know
it's my stomach, it's my thighs, it's my boobs. Yeah.
for me, definitely love handles. Like, I can't handle my love handles. Um, and sometimes like chest, like I feel like I'm very like like I feel like my pecs are too big sometimes. Like I'm always making the self-deprecating joke of, well, before long, if I don't keep working out, I'm gonna need like an A cup or something. Like I'll make that deprecating joke all the
Oh,
time. And I don't make that as much anymore because I've been like trying to be very conscious of like those self-deprecating comments. But it's just interesting to see like how different parts of the body become those focal points, you know? So I'm looking through the comments because I realize we haven't been looking through the comments. David says, I think it's incredibly telling how much work you've both done and resolved to still do, giving yourselves the permission to be vulnerable. Thank you. That really means a lot for you to say. That's one reason why Aria and I wanted to do this show. I mean, not because it gives us an opportunity to hang out virtually, but because with the vulnerable things that we talk about on both of our channels, like I think our goal is to help empower other people to talk about vulnerable things because societally we're conditioned to be very hush hush about things that bother us because it's burdensome, you know, if we bother people with our insecurities. So we really appreciate you saying that. Taylor says, my husband says everyone should always be less naked. It's chill, Donny, wear a shirt. Thank you. Yeah, like that's been something that I've dealt with since I was a kid. It's gotten a little bit easier as I've grown older, but
I think everybody should talk about their issues because I think it unburdens them a little bit.
it's freeing. It's definitely freeing. Like I know like my talking about issues makes me want to hide less. And my immediate coping mechanism for anything, whether it be mental health difficulties in general or like body image or dysmorphia, like it's always to hide, to make myself invisible, because my bullies always told me that I shouldn't exist, or helped me, well, not helped me, forced me to believe that I should be invisible. So I look at speaking out about these things as subverting those types of harmful words, that used to be said. Yeah. So Taylor says, let's get universal health care so everyone can talk about their issues in safe spaces. Yes, definitely.
Or we have a Zoom conference.
Oh, right. So I'm trying to see, I don't think there were any other messages or questions that we missed or anything like that. So I suppose we can work on winding things up here then. How about that?
Yeah.
So what are your parting words for this evening, Ari, my friend?
If you have body image issues, I'm sorry that you do too. But know that you're not alone, and that there is help out there, and that I there is help, and that seek it out, and that you know definitely definitely work to better yourself, because you aren't alone, because these things are nefarious, and they will eat away at you if you let them.
Right. I mean, I can't emphasize enough the idea of getting the help that you need if you need it. Like therapy has been so helpful for me because it's been giving me the opportunity to voice things that I really have never felt comfortable voicing. And if you're the kind of person like me who is always saying, I'm super, introspective, I'm super self aware, sometimes we say those things to distract ourselves from the fact that there are still areas that need examination within ourselves. There's no shame in doing that. And at the end of the day, if it helps us avoid what we've been conditioned to do by other toxic people, then that's growth. That's acknowledging your visibility, that's acknowledging your place in this world, you know. And so the last three comments, I think are wonderful. Arpy says you deserve to be visible. David says by making the silence and unconscious conscious, we can help to destigmatize these subjects and take the power away that they have. Yes, I love that. All right, my friends, thank you so much for tuning in with us tonight. We really appreciate you taking the time to have a chat and to listen and to talk about these difficult things. But remember, in talking about these difficult things, we're in a way helping us, like you were saying, Ari, helping us all feel like we're not alone in these experiences. So again, go subscribe to Ari's channel, Strange Nothings. Subscribe to mine if you haven't yet. Click like on our video, and feel free to share our series around if you feel that it may help benefit other people as well. All right. You all have a wonderful night. Bye.